Canada market for FedEx, they have over 8,000 sales reps. And those 8,000 sales reps call on everything from government to industry to small businesses. And they have a group of 10 universal truths that all of their reps live by. And when I started discovering these universal truths, I found out that there were a substantial number of large sales organizations that had kind of modifications on these exact same 10 truths. So I thought I would present them today to everybody. And what you can do is, if you choose to, and we can get a copy of these 10 to Stacy and to the office if you need to get these in full writing later, because at the very end of the presentation, all 10 of them will be up on the screen at one time if you forget one or you need to write one down. The first universal truth is to find, keep, and get customers. Every salesperson's reason to exist is to find, keep, and get customers. I want to go through this number one, and we make this one number one on purpose because you don't stay in business if you don't find, get, and keep customers. If you want to put down the term, if anybody that is taking notes, there is a universe of suspects. Suspects are unfiltered potential people who you could possibly be calling on and selling, and they're called suspects. You haven't done any filtering. You don't know their income. You don't know their issues. You don't know their current health. You don't know their financial situation to potentially to invest with you or to purchase insurance from you. But those suspects then turn into prospects. Suspects become prospects once you start filtering them and qualifying them. And the qualification is so important because if you end up out in the world calling on prospects that really have not been screened by you or your staff or someone or referred to you by a friend, then you're going to be out there doing a lot of presentations with people who are either totally uninsured, have the financial incapacity to purchase anything from you, have total coverage already from their employer or wherever, and or they don't have any money to invest with you. So find, keep, and get customers. Now, the keep part of this equation is after the sale. And I actually, when I do individual coaching with advisors, I actually take their marketing and talk about it from the before the sale marketing expense, the during the sale marketing expense, and after the sale marketing expense or investment. And before the sale, it's how do you get customers? How much do you spend with your existing customers to get referrals? Do you reward me if I refer you to somebody? Do you have a formalized referral program? How frequently do you call on these people? So before the sale, that's how you get your suspects and your prospects. During the sale, how frequently are you in contact with this person if the case is in underwriting? Or you've gotten a deposit but it hasn't been verified yet and you don't have a confirmation back from the head office. So during the sale, how frequently are you contacting someone? Is you or someone that you're working with helping you contact these people to keep the case alive? And then, of course, there's the after the sale. After the sale investment in a customer, and the customer now is defined as a customer. They're no longer a prospect. They're a customer because you're being paid from commissions from selling them something. That keeping is where the FedExes of the world and the large corporations that have multinational sales forces all over the world will tell you that that's where their biggest investment is. Because the easiest sale is to sell an existing customer more business. So once you get a customer, most advisors that I've experienced in the world, they do not have a formalized after-the-sale marketing campaign. They don't have anything as it relates to either a newsletter or a website or something that I can have contact with you after you've sold me so that I can, during the course of the year, before the renewal of the contracts or before the RFP season or whatever it is, all of those issues would make you want to contact me a minimum, says the research, 6 times during the course of a year. You have a higher chance of another advisor coming in there, their property and casualty broker that has their homeowner's insurance or their auto insurance, or if they own a business, it would be somebody that has their commercial insurance or their fleet or their malpractice if they're a physician or their liability, and all of a sudden somebody else is involved because you didn't stay in contact with them after the sale. And that's what it talks about, keeping the customers. The average agent in North America, and that's U.S. and Canada, because these studies have all been done by LIMRA. Most of you know what LIMRA is. It's the Life Insurance Management Association, and LIMRA has done numerous studies. The average advisor, broker, or agent in the U.S. and Canada has close to a 40% turnover of their customers every year. And the reason that up to 40% of those customers are turning over is because you don't have an after-the-sale program for some form of formalized marketing, form of drifting, form of contacting that customer, that client, after the sale. So number one is find, get, and keep customers. And if you want to keep them, that's the easiest sale to create that whole stream of trailers. Do not assume, if you look at the industry statistics on lapsed life insurance policies and health policies and critical illness and long-term care, that the industry says that the average lapse in the industry is between 30 and 40%, which is the same almost percentage of turnovers of agents losing clients during the course of the year. So because you're not servicing that contract, you're not contacting that person, you're not seeing if there's any additional needs or more insurance that could be sold or more investments, non-qualified investments, that person's going to leave you and go somewhere else. So that begins the number one issue. The second one is, if you aren't in front of your potential customers, you can bet your competition is. Time in your territory, and territory is your existing customers, your existing referrals, your existing prospects and suspects. And the FedEx people use something called a sales call cycling. Sales call cycling is another phrase for how frequently are you contacting these people? When are you contacting them? Do you contact them around the holidays? Do you contact them around their birthday? Do you know what their anniversaries are? Do you have a formalized reason to stay in touch with this person so that they know that you're you and that you're going to be in contact with them and service them after the sale? Because we've got an almost 30 to 40% turnover of policies and a 30 to 40% lapse in the insurance industry, these statistics bear out that there are an awful lot of advisors and agents out there that aren't doing a very good job of number two. Number three is listening more than you can talk. Customers will tell you what matters, so you have to let them. If you let them talk, then you can absolutely get more information from them, and you can find other ways to additionally service them. So what that means by number three is you have to get formalized in the way that you ask questions. And we did this on presentation number one, an exercise called what questions. You want to avoid the word why. When you ask a client or a prospect a question, you want to use the word what. So what are the changes in your estate or your financial situations the last time we had a review? What are some of the issues that you have or your greatest need for insurance? What are some of the areas where you believe that you have substantial amounts of insurance and you're properly covered? A lot of agents forget to ask the prospect or the client, what are some of the areas where you believe that you're properly covered? A lot of people don't even think of areas like critical illness and long-term care, and they think that they're properly covered for health insurance or whatever, and then when they start realizing the issues as it relates to long-term care and critical illness, then they realize that they're underinsured. But the only way that you can do that is questions versus statements. It's one of my favorite sayings when we do sales training. Ask more questions and make fewer statements at the point of sale. The other thing about listening more than you talk is how good are the people, anybody that answers the phone for you. If you do have any staff, if you do have a spouse or someone that answers your phone so that you are out there as having an office rather than just your cell phone, how are you answering that phone? What kind of listening are you doing for that particular prospect or client? How good are you at getting referrals? What you'll find is that the producers who get more referrals, and I'll refer back to a presentation that I made in 2013 to the top of the table. There were 400 producers from around the world that came to a convention. This is the $1 Million Round Table, top of the table. The top of the table is $700,000 of commissions and above. And every one of those those folks who made presentations talked about their referral system and the way that they interview prospects and clients. And number three is probably number one to them, which is that they do a lot more listening than talking. They do not get into product presentations. They do not get into conflict as it relates to estate planning or any kind of confusing technical issues. They don't get involved as it relates to investments or strategies like that. What they do is they find out all of that data by asking more questions. So number three is so very important. How do you ask more questions, and how could you get more professional and formalized in asking more questions. We can also, if you ask Stacy and we get your email, Stacy can get some information to you. We have a sample of the 10 best estate and insurance questions that you can ask a prospect or a client. Have that in our file, and obviously the Copoloff agency would have any material that I have. Number 4 is quantify value in terms defined by your customers. The customer should be defining value. What this means is that your customer or your client should be defining what's important to them. You may have a need in your mind in the way that you sell that everybody buys whole life insurance. You may have an issue as it relates to you never sell term, or you don't sell 10-year term. You only sell term to 99. We've got some folks that are off mute. Thanks. And so what you want to do here is quantify the terms that you can get your customer to quantify. They're going to be the ones that are going to have to define what's valuable to them. If for in this past review they want to talk about children insurance, spousal insurance, anything like that, what you want to do is have a discussion with them and ask the questions and do probing questions as it relates to the terms that they define, what's valued to them at this time. We all know in the industry, in the business, that you make a lot more commissions off of selling insurance than you do investments. But at the end of the day, quite frankly, if they're not properly insured and a situation arises where there's a problem and you had the opportunity to sell them something that they didn't purchase because you never made the offer, quite frankly, that you've done a disservice to that particular client. Number 5 is resolve the customer's issue. 70% will continue to buy. Solving the problems for the customer's original requirement matters. So what does that mean? That's a hard statistic. That statistic actually comes from numerous studies, one of which I saw at a presentation almost 15-plus years ago now with a gentleman by the name of Tom Peters. And what he said was that you have a 70 to 80% chance of closing an existing client and upselling them or reselling them more products and services. So if you look at your existing book and know that 70 to 80% of those folks will buy something from you going forward, then you are far better off getting that client in front of you and having that kind of conversation rather than going out there and doing prospecting with people that don't even know that you exist. And quite frankly, you have to ask the question, where do you spend your marketing dollars? How much do you market to your existing clients? How much do you spend time on websites improvements or newsletters? How much do you spend doing any kind of marketing to those existing clients rather than doing prospecting and cold calling? Because the existing client is your best potential for a sale versus a lead that's a cold call. Number 6 is the difference between try and triumph is just a little oomph. And it's a cutesy little term, but this is the one that FedEx, starting with Mr. Fred Smith, who's the president and chairman of the board of FedEx. He's an ex-captain in the Air Force. He runs the FedEx organization, very militaristic. It's very much top-down. Whoever has the most stripes and the higher VP is the one that basically can make the decision after a lot of input. But what Fred Smith talks about all the time is there's a big difference between trying and triumphs, which is trying to get the sale and getting the sale. And it really is a little oomph, and that really comes back to your personal motivation. How much time do you spend in front of customers? How much time do you spend on the phone prospecting and attempting to get appointments? How much time do you spend doing marketing to existing customers? How much time do you spend basically in your business? And the issue here is going to have to be very, very critical going forward, and that is the difference between trying and triumph is this oomph, which for me is motivation and time. And a lot of folks tell me, oh, I want to increase my production, and one of the first questions that I ask in a coaching session is, what's your day like? How many hours during the course of a typical business week do you physically spend either having lunch with, having conversations with, or interviews with existing customers? And a lot of agents actually will just stop right there because they've never even calculated it. If you take your income from 2014, given that that year just ended, and take the number of hours that you were in front of customers, you're a very, very expensive professional. And every moment that you can spend in front of a customer, either on the phone, directly contacting them, whether it's texting them for an appointment or whatever it is, you know that that's your most valuable time. Your most valuable time is not administration and paperwork. Your most valuable time is in front of customers. And the oath is that you have to persevere. You can get no's. We actually have an exercise that I do in a sales training class called Getting to Yes and Getting Past No. And absolutely, a lot of folks don't realize that the reason that they don't ask for the order or ask for the appointment or ask for the referral is because they don't want the no. It's the biggest salesperson's lament. And so if I think that I'm going to get a no, I may not ask. And the ask may not be for an order. The ask may be for a referral. The ask may be for an appointment. So going forward, what you have to do is take a look at the motivation that you have every day. The other thing I'm going to say there is, everybody, if you don't realize that you do talk to yourself, you do have self-talk. And so I ask my audiences, hey, anybody here talk to themselves? Anybody here not talk to themselves? How many of you realize that when you say that you don't talk, that's talking to yourself, that's your self-talk. And so your self-talk is something that you have to overcome. If you have a lack of motivation, if you feel that you didn't have a really great year in 2014, in spite of the economy going up, in spite of the market going up, in spite of people having more discretionary money, for the first time in many, many years, it looks very positive going into 2015, and everybody is forecasting interest rates staying low, financing is going to be great for expansion, borrowing money for individual purchases like homes and businesses, and equipment and machinery is going to be staying very, very low, and automobiles, so the economy is good, and people seem to be doing well, and yet you may have not had a good year. And so because that year was not what you anticipated, and by the way, did you set any goals for the year? That's a whole other presentation. But if you don't have any goals, then you got where you got because you didn't have any goals. So the oath really the oath begins with you, and the oath begins with your self-talk. If you know that you have negative self-talk about yourself, then my suggestion is to get a support system around you. Get someone, whether it's a coach, a spouse, a friend, somebody in the business, somebody in the Copoloff office, wherever you need to get it, get somebody that can give you a little oomph and get you out there, because quite frankly, you all realize that your most valuable time is on the phone, direct contact, or in person with a prospect, a client, or a referral. And we all know that, and we've known that since time immemorial, since the insurance industry started. And so you've got to understand that, quite frankly, going forward, the oath also means that you've got to have a very positive attitude and have motivation, or you're going to have a problem. Number 7 is do it right the first time. So how frequently are you doing things right the first time? Are you having mistakes with applications? Are you having mistakes with underwriting? Are you not getting all of the physicians' names when you're making an application? Did you check off the wrong box for the investment that you were going to put the investment in and you put it in the wrong fund? So quality matters. And quite frankly, it's very valued by customers. Customers who are going to refer you want to be happy with the service that you gave them, and that every time that you gave them some service, you did it right the first time. Did you have problems in underwriting? Did you have problems getting a physician statement? Did you have problems with a particular client getting the medical? Did you have problems getting a particular policy issued? Did you have problems as it relates to the head office, even if it was an investment situation? Did you have any questions or problems? So one of the ways that you could help your clients want to come back to you and also feel very comfortable referring you to others is to make sure that you're doing everything right the first time. Quality counts. And I would also be very, very, very clear as it relates to things that you want to stay on the phone, and also things that relate to any marketing or emails or whatever. You have all the compliance issues that we have in the insurance industry and the investment industry, and so a lot of things have to pass through compliance. I would be very, very clear that you have a very, very good someone to edit you as it relates to the way that you do email blasts or the way that you do your website. All of those issues are going to come up for you, quite frankly, because you don't want to have the mistakes of having a poorly designed website or a poorly designed marketing piece or someone who's not that very good on the phone. That initial, you only have one opportunity to make that first impression. The other thing that I always say is you can only experience something for the first time once in your life. And so if I'm going to have an experience with you, if you're attempting to have contact with me, either directly through cold call or through a referral, that first impression is so important. So make sure that you're doing it right the first time. Number 8, 3 and 5 will switch for better customer experience. Think about that for a second. What is it that has everybody have the motivation to switch over to somebody else? How would they leave you? What is the issue for them to leave you? When you have a customer or a client who then leaves you, how many of us in the industry have ever contacted that person and said, what are some of the reasons that you left? What are some of the places that I failed you and that you actually chose to go somewhere else? Was it the options? Was it a full customer solution? Was it the products that I was marketing to you? Was it someone that you communicated with or interacted with other than me? Maybe it was someone in the head office. Maybe it was someone in the support staff. Maybe it was somebody, your partner or something like that. But think about that. The reason that people leave is their reason, not yours. And quite frankly, a lot of people do not do any kind of customer service. And what's very interesting is I find it interesting, in 2014, my wife purchased a car. And so it's the first time she's purchased a car in like 8 or 9 years, and she purchased a car. And she's already been contacted 4 times by the dealer about how she was received when she first walked in there, all the way through her initial, how someone explained the car and the radio and all the stuff in the car before she even pulled off the parking lot. And then it was how customer service was as it relates to, was everything clearly explained to you about the upcoming services and tire preferences and all kinds of things. And I find it interesting that in our industry, we actually do a poorer job of customer service than car dealers do. We actually get questionnaires from when you get a prescription for medication or something like that. In the U.S., the CVS pharmacy company now sends a questionnaire about your customer experience. How long did you have to stand in line before you got your prescription? Was the prescription at the cost that you thought it was going to be? Was your insurance clearly explained, et cetera, et cetera? So one of the things that you may want to do here as far as taking notes is, if you see the bottom, it says online customer reviews. I know that a lot of this has to go through compliance, but my suggestion is that SurveyMonkey and those other kinds of companies they cost next to nothing, if not nothing, for initial trials. Try to do a SurveyMonkey of your existing customers just as you start the new year. What are services that you're happy with? What are services that we could get better at? What services have we not offered to you that you've heard from other professionals that we should be offering? There's lots of really great questions that you could be asking existing customers, how they could be better served by you. And quite frankly, that's another drip because you sent them that survey, and you'll also have that person coming back to you that you then have another reason to communicate with them. Thank you for completing the survey. Here's a $10 gift certificate to wherever, to Hortons or wherever it is. And so what you want to do is have a very clear method of communication and getting feedback for you. Because quite frankly, most advisors should not really be surprised by someone leaving. You should be ahead of someone that's unhappy with you. And if you're not and they leave and you didn't know they were leaving, then I would severely, if I were coaching you, I would question why that person left you. That person left you possibly because you didn't know what was going on and somebody else got in there. And it's either that they're unhappy with you or they're happier with someone else. Then you have to find out and discover what is it that they're happier about with someone else. Is it their products and services? Is it their personality? Is it the support staff that they have? Is it the way that they were approaching them? Is it with the options that they gave them? Whatever it is, maybe they're more technically skilled and you're more product-oriented and they're more technically oriented as it relates to taxes, et cetera. And so all of the issues that you have, it all revolves around getting and receiving feedback. Number 9, it takes 12 positive experiences to make up for a negative one. Now, look at that ratio. Every time that you have a problem with a customer or a prospect or with underwriting or with issue or with something going on with that particular case, you've got to have 12 positive experiences to overcome that. And the issue is going to be, how do you do that? And if you're not dripping on that client, and if you're not getting that client constantly involved with you, you're not going to ever anywhere accumulate the 12. So one of the things in doing practice analysis from a standpoint of looking at your own practice, you may want to take a look at, have you had problems with any particular client or prospect recently? And what you want to do is recontacting that prospect or client back very, very soon in the beginning of this new year. Because quite frankly, that person is the person that's going to be closer to leaving you than you would believe, because they had a negative experience. And they haven't had a positive one yet to counterbalance that. So be very, very mindful when you have a problem. And again, it gets back to that whole issue of quality. How good is your quality? How good is your support system? How good are you at crossing the T's and dotting the I's? Are all the applications properly witnessed? Are all of the right products on the checkoff boxes as it relates to investments? Whatever it is, if I've had a negative experience and you put me in the wrong fund or something happened with my investments or whatever the complication was, and it may or may have not been caused by you, what you need to do is be very, very mindful to get back in front of that client very, very quickly, because you've got an uphill battle. If someone else comes along during this really vulnerable period of wanting to leave you, they're going to leave you because they had that negative experience. Number 10, 100% customer satisfaction in all aspects of the service experience. Now, if you want to put down, if anybody is taking notes, you can put down these 4 letters in a row. It's C-A-N-I. C-A-N-I is pronounced can-I, of course, but it stands for constant and never-ending improvement. How are you improving yourself? How are you improving your website? How are you improving your marketing? How are you improving yourself from a tax standpoint? Up in Canada, you've got the equivalent of what we have down here in the States called tax facts down here, and I have the clients that I advise, what we get them to do is read at least 2 or 3 questions every day, whether it's during the day or at night after their work, and they then use the technical parts of those questions and answers somewhere in a presentation. Become a professional in your profession. And quite frankly, if you're not really focused on customer satisfaction and you're in it for the commission, you've probably hit a wall already as it relates to what you're making. The persons who do hundreds of thousands of dollars of premium a year are not focused on the money that they make. They're focused on the service of the customer. And when the customer gets properly serviced, you're going to get referrals. You're going to get additional sales. You're going to get that 70 to 80% resale because, quite frankly, they're going to be very happy with you. And when they're happy with you, they're going to do more business with you. So talent determines and motivation determines. So, and attitude determines. This is from Lou Holtz, who was the coach at that time of Notre Dame. So do you have talent? Do you have the intelligence? Of course you do. Do you have the motivation to get up and do what you have to do every day? And the last and most important part is your attitude. So how do you do this every day is going to be your talent, your motivation, and your attitude. And if you really don't have anyone inside, if you're not objectively looking at yourself for your talent, motivation, and attitude, do an internal check, then get somebody else to just do this for you. Get somebody that knows you well to really help you. And quite frankly, I've seen some very untalented professionals do very well in our business because what they do is they become professionals at it. They get their CRU. They read their tax facts. They know the technical parts. They know the products. They know the competition. And they're very, very good doing practice sales and doing good presentation skills practice. Because quite frankly, all of us at the end of the day are paid professionals to do presentations. If you thought of your business as what's the highest skill that I have to have, it's being a darn good presenter. And so talent, motivation, and attitude is really going to be the key formula to your success. This issue is, this is an acquisition if you aren't in front of them, so take a look at these 10, and here they are again for a formal summary. And take a look at if you were to grade yourself from 1, I don't really have that really under handle, I'm not very good at that, all the way up to 10, I'm the Yoda of that particular universal truth, and I'm really perfect at that one. Give yourself a grade from 1 to 10 in each of these 10 and see where you really need to get better. Because quite frankly, a lot of us really want to look at, why am I not doing more business? Why haven't I broke through whatever the barrier is, whether it's $100,000 a premium or $500,000 a premium or $200,000 a premium, whatever it is, or whatever that barrier is for you to that next step. It's probably right here on the screen. Where are the areas where you fall down as a professional such that your clients are not giving you the next sale, they're not giving you that next referral, and that suspect doesn't become a prospect who becomes a customer because of the way that you're doing your marketing. Take your marketing into before, during, and after the sale. It's going to help you a lot. Formalize your practice and become a professional. Looking forward to seeing everybody again on February the 11th at 10 o'clock. I'm going to turn this back over to Stacy and Shelley and the folks at Copoloff Agency, and thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jack, and thanks to everyone again for joining us this morning. Again, we'd love to hear your feedback, so if you have any topics of interest, feel free to send me an email at zerdoc@copoloff.com, and we'll definitely take your suggestions into consideration. And I wish you all a wonderful day. Does anyone have any questions for Jack before he goes? No? Okay.
Well, it's pretty clear and straightforward.
And we're hoping if there are questions, please ask away. We've got. Do we have time for a question or two?
Of course. Has anyone had a problem with any of these 10? Has anyone had a problem with breaking through any of these 10, getting to the next step? Has anyone looked at their practice as it relates to these 10 and said, okay, this is the issue that I've got, why I'm not breaking through to the next level of production?
Jack, I guess we can also put that question on the table, and if anybody wants to talk about that privately, we're open to that. We're here to help make a difference. So we're also hoping that, Jack, your help in opening up such maybe different thoughts and conversations will get us closer to finding out how we could keep making a difference, right? So.
Absolutely. And the other thing, Shelley, if we do get some feedback to you or Stacy for next time, I think Stacy's point is really well taken. If there is a topic that your audience and your advisor group really wants to have as a presentation, let's have it come forward. Quite frankly, a lot of folks don't really realize that what they are is they're a professional presenter. And a lot of them probably have never had feedback about their presentation skills as it relates at the point of sale. They may be droning on about an illustration or a particular product or investment and not realize that they lost a client about 20 paragraphs ago. And quite frankly, that's probably one of the critical areas. But presentations may be something that everybody thinks that they're great at, and they really don't need any skill building.
Right. That would be great. That would be great.
Hi, Shelley. This is Tarek.
Hi, Tarek. How are you?
Good, thank you. I just have a quick question. I'm curious. I mean, I've taken, obviously, these are all good ideas. Is there a resource that we can go to towards getting assistance with things like compliance and like a lot of these recommendations? It'd be good if we had templates and like standard practices that we could refer to.
When we're talking about compliance, we can do a little. Stacy, we can make a little commercial for our website because it is an area that we've invested a lot of resources into creating templates for your use. If there's anything that's not clear, we're here to support you. So we invite everybody, please visit our compliance section on our website. And if you need help on any of the topics there, just say so. But take a look first, and that's really an invitation. Everybody should be building these templates into their own practice. So thank you, Tarek, for the question, because it's a good reminder.
Okay, well, I guess we'll end it here. It's 10:35, so hopefully I'll hear from you with your suggestions, and we'll see you all on. We'll hear you all on February 11th. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Stay warm.
Stay warm, Jack.
I'm already warm. I'm sorry.
It's probably in Florida.
Yeah. Okay. Good day, everybody.